Very quickly, here's part 3. Part 1 was like 10 minutes long, part 2 was an hour long, and in part 3, out of all that, I forgot to show very briefly, here's my geckos, their house that sort of reminds me of a Godzilla movie. That's why one of them's named Zilla. I don't see any of them now. One is Gordon, as in Gordon Gecko, or Don Gordon, and the other one is Lizzie, sort of like Zilla, spelled the same, similar. Okay, so here's some stuff that I mentioned. Yeah, it's gone now. Darn, I had 40 Laws of Power pulled up. Just random things here, video game cheats, still similar things from my first blog over here. So just for the heck of it, I wanted to see if my fifth cousin 5 times removed was in the index of this book at the very end. Yesterday. I'm looking for a T. Here's the T. That's my cousin, 5 times removed. He was born David Henry Thoreau, and I think he was sort of ashamed of his first name, David. The exact opposite of David Koresh, who was born Vernon Howell and changed his name to David. And for his whole life, most of his life, he went by Henry David instead. There's actually a Saturday Night Live skit making fun of him. He used to play the flute, or some kind of a flute. I'll have to find the skit. It was from like last season, almost over a year ago, almost a year ago. So on page 408, there's one quote, and I was trying to say how, it's right here. As Thoreau once said, envy is the tax which all distinguished gentlemen must pay. So some of the most important people are only mentioned in like one sentence in this book anyways, so it doesn't make me feel very bad. A couple of weeks ago, he mentioned Emerson, who was the mentor of my cousin, 5 times removed, fifth cousin, 5 times removed. And I'll have to make a new video on Ancestry.com showing that. His 4th great-grandfather is Richard Church II, founder of Massachusetts Bay Colony in the early 1600s. And he would be like my 10th great-grandfather. And so that's the relative that we share. My 10th great-grandfather, Richard Church II, whose father, Richard Church, never left Shoreditch, London, City of London. My 10th great-grandfather, it was his 4th great-grandfather. So it's really not that big of a difference. And in my opinion, considering what Shoreditch is known for in London and England, it was where Shakespeare's first plays were ever played at, like whatever plays they were in the early 1500s and stuff. There was a prohibition on theater at this point, and all the theaters were shut down. It was sort of like comparable to the speakeasy prohibition era in America during the early 20th century, 1900s, with Al Capone and alcohol and Alcatraz and all these things. And so because of that, I think he might be the Poor Richard from Poor Richard's Almanac, Ben Franklin's, book that helped, in the founding of America and all this stuff in the early 1700s. So that's all. That's part 3. I'm like extremely excited to have found what I was looking for in the index. My cousin mentioned in that book. Even 50 Cent would be like, wow, that's something. So, because he was in Robert Greene's book, The 50th Law, the 4th of Robert Greene books. Anyways, that's all. Definitely check out part 1 and 2 of my blogs today.